Hi. So what a fantastic fifth test at Oval, which went up to the fifth day, just like all the four tests which went into the fifth and final day. This time it went to a very small and short session of 1 hour when the outcome was decided. But even that 1 hour turned out to be such a riveting 1 hour, such a pulsating 1 hour of cricket. It has been fabulous, it has been thrilling, it has been exciting, it has been on the knife's edge right till the final ball was bowled. So it is not new for the test, it's not for the new for the series. We have had 25 days of absolute exciting and thrilling cricket in this series. Every test match has gone into the fifth day, every test match has having its change and shift and switch of momentum from day to day, session to session, and it is fair that both the teams managed to draw level the series. Both the teams ended up with sharing the honors 2-2. But the way India managed to fight back and come back and won this test match from the brink of defeat, that makes it a much more memorable test and series for India. Because remember, India was playing in England, where India's record has never been great, and also it was a young and inexperienced team playing under a new captain with some dubious team selections, and yet the playing 11 have managed to punch back whenever they have been on the mat, and they have managed to come back. And when they were looking like going down 3-1 in the series, they really came back in the late afternoon session yesterday and managed to pull out a miracle. They managed to pull out a pigeon from a hat like a magician, and they managed to really snatch victory from the jaws of defeat to make the series 2-2 and to ensure that they would leave England with their heads high, with honours shared, and make their fans proud, make themselves proud, and make the whole country proud. What a great series it has been. It has been as pulsating, as riveting as the 2005 Ashes series, and it will go down as an all-time great series which both the countries will remember and the fans of both the countries will relish for decades from now on. And fantastic series. And let's get back to the match. It was a superb test match, but at one point yesterday, when Harry Brook and Joe Root was going actually in great guns with great centuries, the match looked all but over. Indian bowlers were feeling the heat, and the fact that they had gone with the three seamers, and the fact that they were getting really tired and exhausted with nothing left in the tank against the onslaught of Brook and Root, it was clearly visible. Maybe they had resigned to the fact that they would lose this test yesterday in 4 days time and lose the series 3-1. That was an obvious sign that was coming out from the Indian bowling attack. And then something happened. At 301 for 3, Harry Brook played a really reckless shot to surrender a wicket, to give a wicket on a platter to an Indian team which didn't look like having a wicket from any quarter. And that moment onwards, the collapse started, the anxiety crept in, the nervousness crept in, and England players had no clue how to go down the path of victory with a really calm and composed head, how to plan anything. They just went with their old traditional baseball approach, which has been creating havoc for them in the last 2 years and made them lose many a test. And yesterday they once again went into that trap of going just playing some reckless, mindless, brainless cricket without having any plan. When Root was on the other side playing a fabulous knock of 100 plus, Bethel played that horrendous shot after struggling for nearly 30 balls. But then it was not a case that they had to win the match yesterday afternoon or they had to win it within the next 10 overs. They had almost 1 full day and 2 hours with them. They could have easily played by playing 50-60 dot balls and waited for Siraj to tire out or Prasidh to tire out. But then Bethel gave away his wicket in the most reckless manner, and after that Root felt the pressure because he realized all of a sudden that the batters who were coming were looking anxious, nervous, they were not having their proper feet movement and they were struggling, and the Indian bowlers had tested the blood and they were on a pounce, they were trying to go for the kill and they were not feeling the tiredness anymore, and they were trying to use the conditions and use the old ball to make seam movement and create pressure on England, and that ultimately created the dismissal for Root because he also got a little rattled because of the action happening around him when Brook got out and then Bethel got out, and he didn't get the confidence from Jamie Smith. So he got out, and the moment he got out, it was clear that India were on the ascendancy and India were now the favourites. Even though there were a lot of wickets were still there, but we knew that there were hardly any wickets because effectively England were 7 down, though officially they were 6 down, because Woakes were not going to come out and bat with any substantial contribution. That means they were 7 wickets down, 35 runs to go, and today morning Siraj and Prasidh Krishna would come fresh with the ball, and the conditions would be overcast and ball would be doing all sorts of things. It would be tough. And then when the morning came, one thought maybe England would be able to have a better preparation in the night. They would try to correct the mistakes they did in the last 1 hour in the 4th day. But surprisingly and strangely, England were on a suicidal mission. Nobody wanted to hang in there for some time and wait for the bowlers to tire out, or wait for a loose delivery, or wait for a few byes or wides, because these were very common on this pitch where ball was moving out so much. They were just not ready to try at least ensure that Siraj would get replaced after bowling few overs. They were in a hurry to give wickets, and Jamie Smith played one more horrendous shot. The third ball, it was not that he was struggling for 2 hours. The third ball itself, after trying and getting beaten in the first 2 balls where he could have lost the wicket, he just started walking towards the bowler, hoping against hope that the ball would hit the bat and go for some runs. And this, we're talking about Jamie Smith, one of the most talented and future superstars of England. He's not a tail ender. And when he would have gone back and looked at Gus Atkinson, who played 29 deliveries on the same pitch against the same Siraj and Prasidh Krishna, he would be thinking he surely should have played with a little application, with a little patience. And if he would have got out while defending, it could have been still okay, because the whole day was there. There would have been a few balls which could have faced them around. There could have been some byes and wides, as we have seen how Gus Atkinson played some strokes and managed to get runs in the subsequent period. So ultimately England lost by 6 runs. Then the question comes to Jamie Smith, Bethel, that whether they really needed to play with that reckless baseball approach, because if they remember, and we remember, that how they won in Headingley. They won with a very brisk run rate, but then they played a very smart and balanced baseball, because they identified Bumrah as the danger man, and in the entire morning session in the 5th day, they refused to take chance against Bumrah, because they knew they could always make up for the run rate later. They would never struggle for run rate because they had other bowlers on whom they can attack. So even though their openers were playing such aggressive cricket, and we know how Crawley and Dockett play their cricket when they play with baseball approach, but they really gave respect to Bumrah, because they knew Bumrah could bowl only 4 to 5 overs, and after that the floodgates could be open, and that's exactly they did. They knew when to give respect to an opponent bowler when he was at his peak, and when to go on a attacking mode when there would be pressure. And today, when there were only 3 wickets effectively there, because England were 6 down and effectively 7 down, Jamie Smith was the main batter to whom England looked forward to safely guiding them to a win. 35 runs were to be scored, and out of which Overton had already scored 8 runs in the remaining 3 balls from Prasidh Krishna when he resumed from yesterday. So when Siraj came, Jamie Smith should have at least tried to hang in for an over or two to see whether he could at least help in tiring out Siraj, so that the next batters, even if he got out, could actually get some benefit. He refused to take any responsibility and played very reckless cricket. I know England sticks by this kind of approach. McCullum and Stokes would still back their batters to play like that, and they would always have a Headingley win to show as an example. But let's not forget, they have been losing way too many matches because of that same reckless baseball approach. And this test match should have been won by them. A team which was 301 for 3 with just 73 runs to make with 7 wickets in the kitty should have won 9 out of 10 times on a pitch which had stopped doing much. There was not much overcast condition helping the bowlers. Bowlers were absolutely tired because India had a bizarre team selection where they had played only 3 seamers, and after 65-70 overs the bowlers were feeling the pain and the heat, and they were really exhausted. Siraj was completely an exhausted task for tank. Akashdeep was not having any rhythm with his bowling, and Prasidh Krishna is known to be giving leaking runs. So they had a golden opportunity to, from that moment onwards, ensure that they could play proper shots without going for a T20 approach and still score at a brisk pace. But Brook gave away his wicket, but at least to the credit of Brook, he had reached his total of 111 by playing that kind of an approach, and he is known for that approach, so he could still give some leverage to him. But nothing could explain the bizarre approach from Bethel and today Jamie Smith, and ultimately England paid the price and they lost by 6 runs. And it is time for them to go back and reflect and stop being so stubborn and to see how and why they managed to lose this test match. They should have won it 3-1, even though England has been the much worse team. It has been a very ordinary bowling attack, and throughout the series India had been dominating. So yes, in terms of poetic justice, in terms of fairness, in terms of deserving, who deserves to win, we can say it's a fair result. But often you don't look at that in sports. You always look at, if you had an opportunity, you should have actually won it. And England would think they have really given up a chance to win this series 3-1, even with a weak and a depleted team. This team didn't deserve to win, but they had a chance to win, and they should have won it based on where they were at the afternoon session yesterday. India, on the other hand, had dominated 32 sessions and only against losing to England for just 21 sessions. They had 4 of the top 5 batters in terms of top scorers in the series. They have the highest wicket taker in Siraj in the series. So if you take all the landmarks, all the statistics, it would look that India should have been a comfortable winner. But the fact remains is that England had already been 2-1 up coming into this test, and the fourth day of the fifth test match, England should have been the fancy team. They were overwhelming favorite to win, and that would have given them a 3-1 series victory. But it's great that they collapsed, they panicked, and Indian bowlers showed tremendous fighting spirit, tremendous resilience, tremendous self-belief. They never gave up, and the moment they got the wicket of Root, they smelled blood and they went over England like a real bulldozer, and they really created panic in English camp and won it purely by their resilience and by fighting like a warrior, like a street fighter. Every ounce of their energy was spent, but they used the adrenaline and the internal high in their body and their mind to go against and to keep on bowling at the right place and create life miserable for English batters, and won against them and their own backward, and ensured that they came out of the series sharing the honours. And a fabulous performance by them, though it should not and it would not hide the glaring errors that the Indian team management has done. Just like how England has done errors in terms of going stubbornly with that typical baseball approach, they have to reflect. Similarly, Indian team management should and must reflect after this test on their team selection. It is not going to be possible that every time you can come out of a test match winning it because of your resilience and your fighting spirit, even with a completely flawed team approach or a playing 11. You could not have gone to a oval test with so much greenery, so much ground conditions being in favor of seam bowlers, so much overcast condition with just 3 seamers. It is just a miracle that Siraj played one of the greatest test matches for a bowler from India with that 9-wicket spell, and Prasidh Krishna managed to take 8 wickets and 4 wickets each in both the innings and fabulously contributed. Even though he leaked a few runs, it could have been really suicidal for India if England had managed to extend their first innings to a few overs more and would have tired out the Indian bowlers. It could have been really hurting India. You can't play on a green top with just 3 seamers because you don't even have backup seamers from both ends. So that means you have to keep on rotating your seam bowlers because you are playing your spinners because of their batting only. You have no confidence or trust in them, nor they are taking wickets also. And somebody like Washington Sundar who have taken wickets, you don't have trust. And somebody like Jadeja has stopped taking wickets in this series, but they have been fabulous with their batting. So you are trying to play them, but you are not ready to replenish your bowling, the loss of your bowling resources by adding any seamer or spinner. So it was a test match which fittingly needed a 4th test seamer. And let us at least see that how England had gone with 4 seamers. They had read the pitch very well. It's just a misfortune for England that Chris Woakes got injured and had to pull out and had no contribution either with the ball or the bat. So effectively England became a 3-seamer attack. But then that is not their fault. But India knowingly did this harakiri, knowingly went for a suicidal mission. This time they escaped. But hope this win should not give them a false sense of belief that they have been very, very great in terms of their team selection. Gautam Gambhir has to take the blame. Subman Gill as a captain, because he is the man who leads the team. He can't put it on the coach, or attention should not be only on the coach. So both captain and coach have to be answerable, and they have taken some really bizarre decision throughout the series. In the earlier test, when Kuldeep warranted a place, he was not given on the pitch where they could have used the mystery spin to really put pressure, especially Manchester or even Headingley. They didn't do that. So there have been a lot of cases where they went with Ansul combos in the last test, which was definitely not the right approach. And so there has been scenarios when they have really blundered, and they have continued to do. They had done it also to some extent in BGT, where it cost them the series. It had cost them the series against New Zealand. Hope Gautam Gambhir and Shubman Gill as a new captain, they would be happy and glad that India had managed to draw the series. But remember, there would be another way to look at this series, and that would be to say that even though it was an inexperienced team, but India had a fabulously balanced team in terms of their both batting and bowling. In terms of talent, they had at least very good bowling attack, and in the batting, the batters got a chance to play on flat pitches, which England almost gifted in the first four tests by giving it such pitches, because these are like playing into the India's hands. Indian batters should have been tested from the first test onwards like oval pitch, but England did a mistake there. They wanted to play their baseball kind of batting, and they wanted to negate the Indian bowlers by playing on flat pitches, but thereby they gave a chance to the Indian batters to regain their form and their confidence, which they had lost in the Border Gavaskar Trophy and in the New Zealand series. And from the first test onwards, when the Indian top line batters started hitting centuries, they gathered so much confidence that they became almost unstoppable, and that's where England did a mistake. But considering how Indian batters batted, considering how Indian bowling has always come up to the party and delivered, considering how India dominated nearly 32 sessions, considering top 4 of the top 5 batters have been Indians in this series, considering Siraj has performed brilliantly, and along with even when Bumrah is not fit, and he has shown that he can now be considered as the number 1 bowler in Bumrah's absence. He should not be and never should be, his position should be at question. Considering all the factors, it can also be considered as a missed opportunity for India, because this has been one of the weakest bowling attacks England ever has played at home. The pitches had been really to India's advantage, at least in the first 4 tests. India should have really cashed in on that, considering the kind of dominance they should have tried to win the series, and they could have won the series, but because of a few bizarre team selections and playing 11 selections, they may go back and think about that rather than basking in the glory that yes, they won a test match by playing with some fantastic cricket, some heroic cricket by the bowlers, and those 3 bowlers managed to punch above the waist and win you a test match and draw level the series. But it is also time to be a little realistic and to be a little balanced and try to be a little rational to see where things could have been even better. And maybe it has been a missed opportunity. You don't get this kind of opportunity too many times in your life to win a test series in England. Last time we lost it because of that bizarre decision to pull out of the 5th test because of the COVID, when we were clearly on the ascendancy. We could have won that series, and ultimately we went to play the 5th test and we lost it, and we again had to share the test series. This time England did, this time we did the opposite. That time England managed to win the 5th test to square the series and prevented us from winning the series. This time we ensured that we prevented England from winning the series by winning the 5th test. But when the emotions will go down, when people will be a little calm and quiet, there would be a little less high feeling of greatness about just one test win. Then when people will be sitting back and thinking about the series and looking at the performances, then there is a chance that we would think that more than feeling great about a squared up series or a 2-2 shared series, we should also look at it as a missed opportunity. We could have won it 3-1 or maybe 2-1. So anyway, hopefully we'll learn from the mistakes what we did, and then we'll try to build on the great performances and the great achievements which we have done, which have been really plenty, and then try to build a new team for the future, which is going to become the number 1 team and reach the WTC final. And so let's hope for that. Until then, it's goodbye.